Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I never expected a single conversation to completely change everything I thought I knew about my relationship. My name's Oliver, I'm 34, and I've been with Clara for 8 years. 8 years of laughter, small arguments, late-night movies, and that quiet comfort you find in someone who just knows you. I thought we were unshakable, that even if life tested us, we'd bend but never break. I was wrong. Clara had been acting distant for months, though she denied it whenever I mentioned it. "It's nothing, Ollie," she'd say with a small smile, brushing off my concern. "I just need space." Space. That word became our silent thief, slowly taking pieces of the closeness we had built. She wanted what she called a friendly separation, claiming we needed time apart to think about our future. I agreed, partly because I loved her and partly because I wanted to believe it was temporary, that this was just a bump in the road. The morning she suggested it, we sat across from each other at the small kitchen table, coffee cooling in our hands. Her eyes were unusually soft, and her voice carried that unsettling calm you only notice when something feels off. "Ollie, I think we need a pause. I don't want to hurt you, but I think this is better for both of us." She spoke like she was offering a gift, but the weight behind her words hit me like a storm. I nodded, forcing a small smile, trying to keep my chest from tightening. For the next few weeks, we followed the plan she laid out. Separate apartments, separate schedules, separate lives. It was strange, living under the same roof but feeling like strangers. I tried to keep myself busy, going out with friends, focusing on work, trying not to look at her when she walked by in the mornings or evenings. But every glance, every laugh she let slip with someone else, cut deeper than I wanted to admit. And that's when I met Harper. I met her at a local art gallery. She's quirky, bright, and has this laugh that feels like sunlight in a rainy city. We bonded instantly over some ridiculous debate about abstract paintings, and I found myself looking forward to seeing her again, to the sound of her voice, to just feeling understood. Harper wasn't a replacement, not even close, but she became this little spark I hadn't realized I'd been missing. Weeks passed. I was careful, of course. Clara didn't know about Harper. We weren't doing anything that would make me feel guilty. It was just coffee, walks in the park, and long conversations about nothing and everything. I thought I could keep my life compartmentalized, thought that maybe a little happiness wouldn't hurt anyone. I thought wrong. It was a Friday evening. Clara had gone to a dinner with friends, one of her long-standing girls' nights she insisted I never come to. I thought it would be a harmless evening to meet Harper again. We ended up walking through the city streets, laughing at the small absurdities of our lives, and eventually ended up at a tiny little cafe that smelled of vanilla and old books. The way Harper looked at me, really looked at me, made me realize how long it had been since I'd felt completely seen. For the first time in months, I smiled without forcing it. Little did I know, Clara had changed her plans. She wasn't coming home that night. She had driven past the cafe after dinner, taking a different route to avoid me, and then stopped when she saw us through the window. The world seemed to freeze for me too, though I didn't know why at the time. There she was, standing on the sidewalk, silhouetted by the streetlight, her arms crossed, face pale. That calm, collected exterior she always maintained was gone. When I noticed her, Harper stopped mid-sentence, looking at me with wide eyes. "Do you know her?" she asked softly. I swallowed, feeling a knot tighten in my stomach. "Yes," I said, almost in a whisper. "That's Clara." Clara's expression shifted from shock to something I couldn't name. Rage, betrayal, confusion, maybe all at once. I wanted to explain, to say that this wasn't what it looked like, that Harper wasn't a replacement, but the words caught in my throat. She stormed across the street without a word, and I froze, watching her disappear into the night. I didn't chase her. I didn't know if I should, but the cafe felt suddenly colder, and Harper's hand on mine was the only warmth I could cling to. I realized that everything we had, all the friendly separation talk, had been a fragile lie we both wanted to believe in. And now, in that one quiet moment, it was shattered. The next morning, Clara didn't come by the apartment. She hadn't called. I left a small note on the counter, careful not to sound accusatory. "We need to talk when you're ready." I didn't expect an immediate reply, and I wasn't disappointed. Instead, I spent the day walking aimlessly, replaying the night before, trying to understand how a friendly separation had turned into something I didn't recognize. By evening, she showed up at my door. Her hair was pulled back, her usual neat blouse slightly wrinkled, and there was a tremor in her voice I had never heard before. "Oliver, we need to talk," she said. The words felt heavier than the air between us. I nodded, stepping aside, letting her in. I expected anger, tears, maybe even shouting. But none of that came. Instead, she sank into the armchair and looked at me as if trying to read my face, my very thoughts. "I saw you last night," she began, voice tight. "With her." Her eyes were a storm I didn't want to navigate. "How could you?" I stayed silent because I realized there was no simple answer. How could I explain something I barely understood myself? "Clara, Harper isn't. It's not what you think. She's not a replacement," I said slowly, carefully choosing each word. But Clara's lips pressed into a thin line. "Not what I think," she repeated. "Oliver, we agreed on a separation, a friendly one. I thought you'd use this time to reflect, not find someone else." The betrayal in her voice was unmistakable, raw. And in that moment, I saw the truth. She had never truly considered the consequences of her own decision. Her idea of friendly was fragile, naive, and now completely shattered. I tried again, softer this time. "Clara, I wasn't looking to hurt you. I wasn't trying to replace anything. I found someone who reminds me of what it feels like to be seen. Really seen. Nothing more, nothing less." She laughed then, but it wasn't a happy laugh. It was sharp, a mixture of disbelief and frustration. "Seen? You think you're justified because someone gives you a smile that isn't mine? Oliver, we've been together 8 years. Her voice cracked, the anger giving way to sadness. 8 years. And this is how you repay me?" I took a deep breath. I didn't want to argue, didn't want to escalate. "Clara, this isn't about repayment. It's about survival. I needed to feel alive again. I needed to remind myself that I still matter, that I'm still me." Her hands trembled slightly as she buried her face in them. "I never meant for this to happen," she whispered. For a moment, she looked vulnerable, and I felt a flicker of the woman I once knew. But the longer I stared, the clearer it became. The dynamic between us had changed irrevocably. She had started the separation, created distance, and now couldn't handle the consequences. "I don't want to fight," I said finally. "I just need honesty, Clara. I need to know if we can truly fix this, or if we're pretending so we don't feel the hurt." She looked up then, eyes red but hard. I don't know. Maybe we were fooling ourselves for a long time. Maybe I thought a friendly separation would protect us from the truth." Her voice faltered, then steadied again. "Seeing you with her, it made me realize I can't control how you feel, and I can't pretend anymore. Maybe this is really over." Silence filled the room. I wanted to respond, to argue, to convince her that there was a path back. But deep down, I knew she was right. Some things, once broken, can't be stitched together with words alone. Sometimes, clarity comes in the quiet moments where the only choice left is acceptance. "I understand," I said, my voice calm, "and I respect that. We've both been honest now in the ways we needed to be. I hope you find what you're looking for, Clara. I really do." She nodded, barely audibly, and left the apartment. I stood there for a long while after the door clicked shut, feeling an unexpected sense of peace wash over me. It wasn't joy, not exactly, but it was a relief I hadn't expected. The tension, the pretending, the unspoken rules, all of it was gone. She had her life and I had mine. And maybe, just maybe, it was better this way. A few days later, Harper and I met again, this time in a quiet corner of the park. I watched her speak, watched her eyes light up with the small joys of the day, and I realized something important. Life doesn't wait for permission. People come and go. Some leave scars, others leave warmth. And sometimes what feels like betrayal is actually freedom in disguise. I didn't know what the future held for Clara, or even for Harper and me. But I knew one thing for certain. I wouldn't let fear or loyalty to a fractured past stop me from living my life fully. For the first time in months, I felt alive, whole. And when Harper laughed, really laughed, I realized that sometimes the end of one chapter isn't tragedy. It's the beginning of a story you've been too afraid to write. And maybe that's what separation truly is. Not punishment, not loss, not betrayal, but clarity. And finally, the chance to see yourself reflected in someone else's eyes, unfiltered, unafraid, and unbound.